I used to think love meant wanting the same things. I found out too late that my husband and I had never wanted the same marriage at all. For 6 years, I had asked for what I thought was simple, a real marriage. Date nights that weren't an afterthought, conversations that went deeper than bills and schedules, a partner who noticed when I was struggling, not just when dinner was late. I called it wanting a real marriage. He called it too much. I remember the exact moment something in me cracked. We were at his sister's dinner table, extended family all around, and I mentioned, half joking but not really, that I wished we still had date nights like we used to. He laughed before I even finished the sentence. She wants a real marriage, he said to the table, using air quotes, like the words themselves were a punchline. As if what we have isn't real enough. Some people watch too many movies and think marriage is supposed to feel like a fairy tale forever. Everyone chuckled. His mother smiled at me with something close to pity. I smiled too because that's what you do when your heart is quietly breaking in a room full of people who think you're being dramatic. That wasn't the first time. It had become a pattern. Anytime I brought up wanting more emotional connection, more effort, more presence, he twisted into me being unrealistic, needy, too idealistic for real life. He made me feel like wanting to be loved well was a character flaw. So I stopped asking. I told myself maybe he was right, maybe I was expecting too much. I threw myself into work, into friendships, into anything that gave me the connection I wasn't getting at home. I stopped initiating conversations about us. I stopped planning anniversaries that he'd forget anyway. Slowly, I built a life that didn't depend on him noticing me. And somewhere in that quiet withdrawal, I made a decision I didn't even realize I was making. I stopped fighting for a marriage he had already told me, in front of his own family, that he thought was a joke to want. 6 months ago, I finally said it out loud. I told him I wanted a divorce. Not in anger, not as a threat, just as a fact. The way you'd announce something you'd already made peace with. I told him I had spent years wanting a real marriage, and he had spent years mocking me for it, and I was done asking someone to want something he'd already decided was ridiculous. That's when everything changed. Suddenly, the man who had rolled his eyes at date nights was booking us tables at restaurants I used to beg him to try. The man who forgot anniversaries started leaving notes on the counter. The man who called my need for connection too much was suddenly texting me throughout the day, asking how I was doing, telling me he loved me like the words actually meant something now. He begged me not to leave. He said he didn't realize what he had. He said he could change. He said all the things I had wanted to hear for 6 years, finally. Now that the door was already closing. Part of me wanted to believe him. Part of me wanted to rewind time, to have this version of him back when it still could have saved us. But I kept thinking about that dinner table, his laugh, his mother's pitying smile. The years I spent shrinking my own needs, down to something small enough not to embarrass him. I told him something I don't think he expected to hear. I told him I wasn't leaving because I stopped wanting a real marriage. I was leaving because I finally understood that wanting one wasn't the problem. He was. He cried. He asked for one more chance, then another, then one more after that. But every time he begged, I heard an echo of that dinner table laughter underneath his words, and I couldn't unhear it. I am not leaving out of spite. I am not leaving to punish him. I'm leaving because somewhere along the way I learned that a woman who wants real love, real effort, real presence in her marriage is not asking for too much. She is simply asking for what marriage is supposed to be in the first place. He's still begging. He calls it fighting for us. I call it fighting for a version of me he only started valuing once I stopped needing him to. I used to think love meant wanting the same things. Now I know it means being wanted for exactly what you already are. Not mocked for it, not tolerated for it, but chosen for it. Fully, without apology. And that is the real marriage I am finally choosing, even if it means choosing myself first.